Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. The third day of campus party. I hope everyone is having a great time. My name is Laura Corrales, and I am the Sustainability Officer for Delmar International. Delmar International is a global logistics service provider, and I am in charge of the sustainability strategy for North America. Today, we're going to be chatting about Intrapreneurship and Change Agency. We only have 30 minutes, so I leave you in the bottom my social media channels if you want to tag me throughout the event or if you want to continue the conversation maybe after. But before we get started, I actually want to acknowledge the lands that I'm speaking today from. Speaking today from the traditional territory of the Ganage Nation, which are the custodians of the lands and the waters on which I speak from today. I'm located in the island of Montreal, also known as Jage in the native language, and it has historically been a gather place for nations across Turtle Island. Today, this place is my home and is also the home to a diverse populations of First Indigenous and other peoples. I also want to acknowledge that I come from Colombia, a land that has more than 100 indigenous communities, which are actually being greatly impacted by COVID-19. They have been victims of internal conflict, and today I stand in solidarity with those raising their voices these past couple of weeks to demand justice for the acts of violence against indigenous girls in Colombia. Let us be mindful of the story over the territories that we inhabit, and let's try to be part of the reconciliation process wherever we are in. So with that being said, let's jump into our topic. Before we get started, we only have 30 minutes together, but I want you to get to know me. As I said, my name is Laura Corrales. I am Colombian, born and raised. I'm a really extroverted person that enjoys connecting with other people. Some might say that I'm too passionate, but I actually consider that as my superpower. I try to bring energy to every table I sit on. One of my main values is empathy, and I try to use empathy daily on my work. Although that's something that you can never be perfect on, I try to channel that every single day. One inspirational leader that I really admire is Martin Luther King Jr. And one guiding quote throughout my life that guides me is finding light in the darkness. So you can see that I try to be a really positive person. So that's me personally. Professionally, I'm an industrial engineer, graduated from the Pontificia Universidad Javeriana in Colombia, and just finished my master's in sustainability from Harvard University. I've been mostly working in the logistics industry, as you can see, with UPS, DHL, and now with Delmar. However, I had a couple of times, 2 years in my life, that I worked with the non-for-profit sector, specifically with women in social entrepreneurship. I also worked in projects around circular economy and recycling with companies like Save That Stuff and with the Eco Design Hub Ethique. I'm really involved in grassroots programs and volunteering programs. I'm part of the Global Shapers community, which is a network of young leaders between the ages of 20 and 30, an initiative of the World Economic Forum to allow young people to create action locally, regionally, and at the international level. I'm the outgoing creator of the Montreal Global Shapers, and now jumping into a new challenge as the Canadian Community Champion for the Global Shapers community. I'm also part of the Climate Reality Leadership Corps. You might have heard from former Vice President Al Gore. He started the Climate Reality to create a coalition of leaders that would raise awareness around the climate crisis. And I'm really excited to be mentoring next week as part of the first ever global training for climate reality leaders. I'm also part of the Youth Congress of Sustainable Americas. It's a group of young leaders powered by the Nature Conservancy and the Biennial of the Americas to give us the tools to create action in our hemisphere. So that is in a quick 2 minutes who I am. But this is what we're going to do today. So today we're going to discuss a little bit about my journey, how I discovered Change Agency, some concepts, some tools, and then we'll have some time for Q&A. So let's start with how I discovered Change Agency. And I think this is really important because this is a tool that has really changed my life, and I would say saved my life as well. So I want to go back to the time in 2014. I decided to leave Colombia and go to Boston with the idea to learn English. But what I didn't expect it was this cultural shock. I noticed there was a lot of throwaway society, right? There's a lot of to-go coffee. I used to have part-time jobs in restaurants, and there was so much food being wasted. So with my engineering background, I became really obsessed with the issue of waste. I thought, how is it that we're sending valuable resources to the landfill? And I thought this was a supply chain process that companies and stakeholders could solve if they can talk to each other. So being in Boston, I had a friend that told me, hey, Laura, but we are in the city with the best universities. Why don't you take this class at Harvard that is called Life Cycle Assessment and Sustainable Supply Chains? And I thought that is something that I really wanted to do. I was questioning myself, Harvard, maybe it's not for me. My English might not be good enough, but I gave it a try. And when I jumped into this class, I realized that sustainability is not only, waste management, circular economy, recycling, but that is actually a vast field that can change our world. And I decided I wanted to be part of that. And I realized that the corporate world that I came from had a big part to play. So I decided to enroll full and the master's for sustainability and started to create the experiences I needed to then transition to that certain kind of job. So I decided to volunteer. I organized the sustainability and conference in Boston, helping to create a zero waste conference. We actually made the news. I found myself internships and volunteering group that would give me the skills to get involved in the field. Then at the end of 2016, I finally got my paperwork to go to Canada, and I thought that the formula was going to work in Montreal. So I came to Montreal trying to learn French. I decided to start volunteering. Through the volunteering, I got myself a job in social entrepreneurship for women empowerment and sustainable businesses. Even though it had a big component of French, I thought, you know what, I got this. I decided with my first salary, go back and enroll and finish 2 of my classes trying to pursue the sustainability master. But that was too much on my plate. With the French, with the work, I wasn't able to actually fulfill my duties. So at some point, I was having lack of sleep, I was having anxiety, I was having panic attacks, that I decided to drop something from my plate, and that was school. But with that, I lost a big amount of money, and I thought I was going to focus on work because that was my priority. That is how I thought I was making an impact. But then I couldn't bear the failure of losing the money or actually dropping the school that was so meaningful for me. And I came into a depression for a little while. So I had to actually leave my work as well for my own health and safety. And with my husband and discussions with my family, I came back to Colombia and took a break to take care of my mental health. So being back there, I don't know if this has happened to you, but you leave your country, you get married, you start working, you start a master's, and suddenly you're back at your bedroom when you were 15 years old. So it was a lot for me to take, but at some point I realized, you know what? It's not about what I lost, but it's about what I have. I have my family, I have my skills, I have my health. Let me go and give it a second chance. So I came back to Montreal. This time I realized maybe the non-for-profit environment, it's not for me. Let me go to the place I already know a little bit more. So I found myself a job in the private sector at UPS as a sales representative, and I started slowly to take care of myself. With a better financial and really curious about sustainability in this new organization, I decided to take again one more class in my master's and give it a chance. But this class actually allowed me to create my first intrapreneurship project. And this class is called the Leadership for 21st Century, and asked me to create a project within a company I'm part of. So that was the moment that it clicked. That was my aha moment. I didn't need a title. I didn't need to have sustainability in my job. I could be a change agent and do what I really wanted just by being myself. So that's what I wanted to tell you this story, because this change agency and being a change agent really gave me purpose and changed my life. After I decided to get involved within sustainability at my company, I was able not only to start the first employee-led sustainability committee, but I was actually able to be invited at the highest level of sustainability for the country. I was invited to be part of the Sustainability Canada Steering Committee. We created many initiatives. I felt the confidence to get involved in my community and be involved with the global shapers and actually attend the World Economic Forum meeting for curators in Geneva. Slowly and step by step, I did my way through my master's degree, and I graduated just last May online with the pandemic. And I was actually invited at the United Nations to speak on behalf of young professionals at the Hispanic Leadership Summit, where we were actually discussing with corporate America, how can companies encourage young people to be their true self? And my message was exactly, allow us to be intrapreneurs in the matters that are important to us. So I know for millennials, the sustainable development goals are something that are really core to our values, and we can do our work, but also bring our true selves to the company and start side projects that can make us thrive. So at that moment, I realized I'm a change agent. And by embracing that, I guess you now wonder, but how did that all happen? From the failure to then starting something. So this is the concept that it really changed my life. And I really embraced the fact that maybe I don't need to be an entrepreneur. Sometimes you look at these big companies changing the world, and you look at these people changing the world. And I always wanted to be one of those. I wanted to have the title of sustainability in my full-time position. But then I realized I'm actually a person that can inspire, motivate, and lead change within an organization. And that's something that I'm going to embrace. The concept of change agency, as my professor Liz Sharp would say, is actually a professional field of expertise. It can be taught, it can be learned, and it can change everything. Imagine that in every company, in every industry, you have a change agent always bringing their values to the table and always trying to inspire and be drivers of change to make business a force for good. So that is what I embrace. And I am okay, but not being an entrepreneur and starting something myself. I like to understand that I'm what Griffith Peanut said when he created this concert. We are dreamers who do. No matter the situation, the location, we just do what aligns with our values. And that's what I want to share. But it was not only these two concepts. I guess you're wondering, how did that really, really happen? So I'm going to share with you a simple story, my first ever entrepreneurship experience. And this was the day that I said, okay, I'm really curious about sustainability in this massive organization that I'm part of. This organization has 405,000 employees around the world. And I was just a sales representative in Montreal. So I said, let me start. I have this plan. I'm going to start a sustainability committee. And with the committee, we're going to lead on and just, do a green office. That was my plan. But that was not the real story. So through the real story, I'm going to tell you what I learned and the tools that allowed me to create long-lasting impact. And I hope these tools may help you as well. So these tools, this is not a recipe. These are just some tools that you can pick and choose whenever you're doing your change agency projects within organizations. Each idea and each context is really different, so you might know better when to adapt it. But these are some tools that were really useful. Learn to navigate your networks, leverage the early adopters and the people that believe in you, make it safe, understand your stakeholders, active listen to others, utilize the power of networking, design thinking, and be careful of your mental health. Now we'll dive into each one of those. So navigate your networks. When you work for a company, sometimes you believe there's only one network, right? There's just the hierarchical system, and here I am, I'm just this small salesperson. I wish I could make an impact, but how can I reach the decision making? But that's not true. Through Change Agency, I realized that there's actually two important operation systems in the company. There's the hierarchical system that is really important for structure, for direction, for accountability, to help you scale up. But there's also the operating system of adaptive community. The adaptive operating system is an actual curated, purpose-driven action of human potential for productive ends. So these are just the people that you gather to help you move forward the conversation or the agenda that you're bringing. It's not only in my case, the sustainability committee, but all the stakeholders that were part of this conversation. So by finding shared purpose, you can make these two networks work. And that is what actually propels change. So specifically for sustainability, you can ask yourself these two questions. What can sustainability do for the organization? That's what the hierarchical system is thinking. And then the adaptive system is thinking, how can the organization support sustainability? And then once they have this shared purpose, you can create that. I think I will share an example here. When I first joined UPS, I thought about it just as a hierarchical system. And my first day of work, I said, you know what, let me just email the chief sustainability officer and tell her I'm interested, I'm here in Montreal, I want to help. Of course, I did not receive a reply because the person that has many demanding requirements. But then slowly I started to email more people, and I was not getting answers. That was creating a negative experience for me and creating frustration. When I suddenly understand, I don't need to navigate the hierarchy. I just need to find allies. I started to understand who's managing sustainability in different departments. I started to join the conversations of the sustainability champions, and I started to create a sustainability peer network that then helped me through my change agency journey. Another tip to take into account once you're doing this project is leverage the power of the early adopters, your innovators and your early adopters. Something that happened to me the first day I joined this company, I wanted to change everything. So when I joined, I used to just send emails to everyone. Happy Monday. Did you know this about sustainability? Did you know that you can recycle this? I was just sending the information without actually asking them. So I was mistakenly addressing the mass, but trying to convince the mass is useless. You have to convince your innovators, your early adopters, and then they, through different tools that I will explain later on, they will actually help you spread the word around the organization. So I had a really hard experience. I learned it in a tough way because people started to complain about Laura sending these emails that they were not asking on. But I learned and I changed my strategy. I took on my innovators and my early adopters, and we started the committee. But then it's really important that you also make it safe. So in this process, and I guess now more days in the work environment, we have different intergenerational relationships. So you have to make it safe both for your innovators and the early adopters, so they don't feel threatened for speaking up, but also for those that just want to learn and they want to be honest and say, hey, I don't know about sustainability, teach me. So try to always create positive dynamics. Don't be judgmental. Try to use emotional intelligence like self-awareness, self-management, relationship management, social awareness to make everyone feel safe. Something that I really use is empathy. I try to be on the shoes of the others and understand how would they feel if I come here talking about sustainability? What is it that makes them feel uncomfortable? Or what is it that could make them feel comfortable? So try to make them safe. As there's actually a TED Talk about this topic by Amy that you can find if you want to understand a little bit more. But on this topic on making the space safe, there's this important tool as well, active listening. When you're doing your change agency project, when you connect with people, try to really pay attention. Don't judge, reflect, and then share your ideas, summarize, and clarify. So something that happened to me, I think it's really important also another tool that's why I have an antenna that my professor calls sensing. It's important that you sense the environment and the context. Is it that an environment that works on competition? Is it an environment that works on rewards? And then the more you can gather information, the more you can understand your environment, the better you can build a solution. But ideally, by active listening, by sensing, and by making it safe, you're going to actually provide a space for positive social relationships into your projects. But then most importantly, once you have all these strategies, try to map out your stakeholders. So as you're doing all these, going through the organization, something that was really key for me was my influencers. I was able to sell the idea of the sustainability committee to my manager. I told him that won't affect my performance as a sales professional. On the contrary, it will make me be a better sales professional. He was my influencer and opened so many doors for me in this big company to get as far as I got. Know your gatekeepers and know your makers. So it's really important that you as a change maker understand what stakeholders you want to monitor, keep informed, manage closely, or just keep satisfied. This is the stakeholder map that you can find online and understand a little bit better. But for me, it helped me actually sell sustainability as a value added to the organization. And a really important tool as well that sometimes we take for granted is networking. You need to be out there. I wouldn't be able to go as far as being in the steering committee for sustainability at the Canadian level if it wasn't for networking. So I was always going to be in the cafeteria, active listening to people, as well to try to go to events like sustainability conferences so that people would know and know that I'm passionate about and I'm being serious. And also I have actually a funny anecdote on the importance of networking. I was actually waiting approval for our sustainability committee at this big facility here in Montreal. And the person that was supposed to give me the approval or just be this gatekeeper influencer to help me was a vice president. But this vice president was in Toronto. But someone told me one day she would be in Montreal to help with a tree planting event. So I made sure I was there that day. And for some reason, we ended up being together in the same team, planting a tree. And she told me, hey, is your name Laura? I saw your emails. I'm sorry I haven't gotten back to you, but your project sounds amazing. Let's get it approved. And that changed everything. By being out there in a networking event, not pushing my idea, but just being present, I was able to move it forward and get the approval that I really needed. And then use the power of design thinking. Design thinking, many of us, we already know, but it's important that you can create opportunities for people to experience the change. I was really, before coming across Change Agency, I was always just sharing information, email, sustainability, and talking. Then I realized I needed to create experiences where people can see what sustainability really means. So we empathize, understand the environment. We know we have intergenerational people in the room. We define the strategy, have ideation, prototype, but most importantly, we test. So one day I decided to remove all the trash cans from our floor. I thought that was a great idea, but it actually caused a bad reaction from my team. They were not ready, but that helped me to gather information. And then I pivot. I understood that was not good. I pivot and I created a new initiative now that I know them better. But that should not stop me. I always should have, and that's why I put an asterisk on design thinking. Pivot. Stick to your goal and you can always go back. But then most importantly, at the end of everything, you are your most important stakeholder. So take care of your mental health. Try to be calm and relax and always be present for yourself. Try to fight the imposter syndrome. Sometimes you think, I'm not good enough for this. Why would I start a sustainability committee? I haven't even go to school for sustainability. That doesn't matter. What matters is your passion and what you want to bring to the company. So take care of that and fight the imposter syndrome. But just to close pretty quickly and try to answer your questions on the chat, these are my last tips. It's okay to be an entrepreneur. It's okay to do change within your company, but enjoy the process. Try to use a service approach instead of asking for people. Just be of service for people. Be of service for your organization. Avoid instant gratification. Don't expect to accomplish your goal tomorrow. Goals take actually a while. Dream big, but start small, and pilot. Stick to your goal, but not to the plan. Be flexible. Be kind to yourself and find your champions and your sponsors. But most importantly, remember that is awesome to be an entrepreneur because you can learn professional skills and it can actually help you advance professionally. I never thought this experience would actually help me get the skills and the experience to have the job that I have today. So with that being said, trust your crazy ideas. Thank you and contact me. I have 6 minutes, so I'm going to answer quickly. How have your personal mental health issues helped to shape your sustainability passion? Well, it changed everything. I understood that I cannot be a sustainable champion if I'm not in a good place for myself. So I understand, usually I feel that I have to solve all the problems that we have in the world, right? There's climate change is just such a big problem that I understood is not for me to solve by myself. So I try to fight that anxiety and just know that one step, one single action could actually mean a lot. I also understand that our bigger problems, like at the systemic level, that we need to push for policies, we need to push for changes in organizations, other than just criticize our colleagues for using a plastic bottle, other than just criticizing what we do at home. It's really important to be kind to those next to us. And of course, we want to learn little by little. But I think fighting the bigger fights, like in organizations, like what I just did, or with policy making, it's really worth your time. So that's how I try to manage it. What do you consider to be your most important achievement? Wow, I don't know. I think I don't see anything of these as achievements. I actually see them as a step to get where I really want to put my passion forth. But I think the most important achievement could be just understanding that I'm vulnerable, and that I could break down at any time, so that I don't have to be there for everyone all the time. I need to be there for myself. So I think the most important achievement is just realizing that and giving everything their own time. But so far, I think just being able to mix both my corporate world and sustainability, being able to have the job that I have today is really a privilege, and I hope to use that privilege for good. So I think that'll be a professional achievement. So the last question, do you agree that creating change agency strategy requires a great deal of patience and persuasion? 100%. It does require patience. Sometimes we believe, I am just going to start a sustainability committee today and my colleagues are going to be, yay, supportive. Well, that usually doesn't happen. So you have to be patient and remember that it's not personal. It's not that people don't like you, but people actually need their own time to process this information, to feel safe and to take action. So if you are mindful that this is not personal, you can be patient. And of course, it requires a little bit of persuasion, but I think it requires mostly sales skills. So if you remember these two structures that I have to sell to the hierarchical operational system. You have to sell them the value of sustainability. So it is important to motivate your employees to take action, because happier employees, it's better productivity. And then if your employees are actually helping you fight climate change, they're protecting your business, right? So you just have to circle back and help them understand that this is a holistic issue. How do you manage maintaining momentum into your strategies? Well, I think managing momentum into your strategies is all about being present. And I think the networking component is really important. So just be present out there, educate your early adopters and your innovators to be out there gathering and listening to what people are doing. But I think conversations is really important. I used to just have a strategy of like lunch and learn, or let's just sit together and see a movie. So allowing people to enjoy and connect on a social level help me with the more professional strategies. So that is something I use to keep the momentum going. So I know we only have 1 minute, but I'm going to try to answer quickly the last question. Where do you start to educate a company? The company I work for is not responsible and I would like to change their mindset. Amazing. I think the first thing you have to do is just start with yourself. So if you already have the education that you want to share, also try to then share with your network, with your colleagues around. And I think a lunch and learn would be important. And then bring it to the attention to the HR so that they know this is important to you. So you can slowly start mixing the social layer with the hierarchical level, lunch and learn, but also you want your company to take action. But let them know that you want to start working on something. Propose an idea. Don't wait for them to act. And I'm sure they'll give you the chance to act. I think I only have 2 seconds. So thank you so much for everyone for being here. I hope this is helpful for you all. Feel free to connect with me on social media, and hope to see you out there making some change. We need an army of change agents. Bye-bye, everyone.